All right. Well, they say that the two best words in all of sports are game seven. But if we're going to be more specific to football and the NFL, the best two words in football are 49ers, Cowboys. And that's what we're going to get. 49ers, Cowboys, the most epic, glamorous rivalry that there is. 3:30 p.m. Sunday at Levi's Stadium. A rematch of last year's NFC wildcard game, but that one was over in Texas. This one is going to be a home game for the 49ers. And it's obviously more than just a rematch of last year's playoffs. A long time before last year, the 49ers and Cowboys played in the most star-studded matchup ever, the NFC Championship game, January 1995. That was also the last year, or the last season, I guess I should say, that the 49ers won a Super Bowl. So this is history. And next Sunday is going to be epic. As much as this, 49ers Cowboys is NFL nirvana. If you're an NFL fan, you enjoy 49ers Cowboys. You may hate both of the teams, but if you're an NFL fan, you enjoy 49ers Cowboys. And if you're a fan of either of these two teams, well, your blood is boiling right now. The pressure is ratcheting up. We've got less than a week to go before kickoff. It will be intense. The weather should be good in Santa Clara. The rain clouds have cleared. We expect maybe a little bit more precipitation this week, but it should be gone by Sunday. 60 degrees or so at kickoff. And the 49ers and the Cowboys are going to war. If we look at this season specifically, this is going to be a battle of the NFL's top two defenses. And if we want to go to a viewer statistic category, this will be the most watched non-Super Bowl game of the year. I think it's going to be more watched than the conference title games because it's the Cowboys and it's the 49ers. America's team, right? That's what Jerry Jones has branded the Cowboys, and he's done a good job at it. You got to give him credit at that. But the 49ers are also a glamour franchise. The team of the 80s against the team of the 90s, and now both have seen a renaissance in the 2020s. Dak Prescott on one side, Brock Purdy and that phenomenal story on the other. I talked about a battle of the NFL's top two defenses. Well, the defensive player of the year is going to be Nick Bosa this season, almost certainly. His main competition was Micah Parsons of the Dallas Cowboys. We won't find out who won that award for the regular season until right before the Super Bowl, but we're going to get to see both Bosa and Parsons on the same field. We're going to get to see star players on both sides of the ball. CeeDee Lamb, 1,300 receiving yards for Dallas. The 49ers, meanwhile, have plenty of offensive firepower to counter that. Christian McCaffrey obviously leading the charge, but Deebo Samuel's there as well. Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. Speaking of tight ends, don't forget that Dalton Schultz went to Stanford with Christian McCaffrey. That is the Dallas Cowboys tight end, Dalton Schultz, who had a nice game today against Tampa Bay. And let's remember, the final score today was what? 31-14, I believe, right? The Dallas Cowboys beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So a 17-point win for Dallas, but it's very important to remember to not go too crazy over this win for the Cowboys because Tampa Bay was not a good team this year. Tampa Bay was at best mediocre. I went over the DVOA profile of Tampa Bay. Nobody was impressed. And Tom Brady he's playing like he's over the hill right now. I don't know what's next for Tom Brady. Maybe he's talking about it right now on the postgame show, but we're doing this instead. But anyway, he looked like he was 45 years old today. He looked like he was 45 against the 49ers back in the start of December when the 49ers beat the Buccaneers 35-7. The two worst defeats for Tampa Bay this season came at the hands of the 49ers by 28 points, and today against the Cowboys by those 17 points. So the 49ers and the Cowboys, it's the matchup of the two teams that beat Tom Brady the worst here in this 2022/2023 season. Speaking of DVOA, why don't we look at Dallas's profile? Why don't we look to see what the Cowboys are all about? Here we go. I made this little table. NFL Nirvana, 49ers Cowboys. Let's erase that for now, though. Blue is good, red is bad. As you can see, there's no red on this. The Cowboys are an above average team across the board, but the blue is a little bit lighter on the offensive portion. And I'm going to talk about Dak Prescott in a bit. He was really, really good tonight against Tampa Bay, but it hasn't been Dak Prescott's best season so far. And the 49ers obviously hope that they're going to get the regular season version of Dak Prescott and not the one that showed up in Florida on Monday Night Football here. in the playoffs. Because as you can see, the Dallas offense, number 15, and that's even without, even if you take out the games where Dak Prescott was hurt and Cooper Rush started instead, the Cowboys were still number 15 offensively. Pass offense, number 13. Run offense, a little bit better, number 10. But, I'll get into why these efficiency clips have been lower than the past. The Cowboys, remember, were the number one offense DVOA last season when the 49ers shut them down in Texas. And it's interesting to see how many more mistakes they've been committing this year, and we'll see if that continues against the 49ers. More on that in a second. The defense, meanwhile, for the Cowboys has surged. Number 2 in the NFL, number 3 pass defense, number 5 run defense. This is going to be the toughest matchup that Brock Purdy has faced to date, and I would say it's probably going to be the toughest matchup that Brock Purdy will face all season, even if the 49ers win and even if they go on to win the Super Bowl. Because the Cowboys are number 2. Brock Purdy's not going to face his own defense in a game. The 49ers are number 1. Cowboys also good on special teams, number 10, although today it wasn't very good on special teams. That is going to be a subtext. Maher, the kicker for the Cowboys, missed all of those extra points. I believe 4 extra points. That was brutal. Maybe Dallas brings in a new kicker for this game. And finally, Dallas is the number 6 overall DVOA team in all of football. For comparison, the 49ers are number 1 DVOA, and especially since week 8, they've been at the top of the list. That's when they acquired Christian McCaffrey. Here's a look at team tiers. Over the course of the whole season, you can get a visualization of where the 49ers are. Tier 1, alongside Kansas City, Philadelphia, and Buffalo. You want to be further to the right to denote better offensive play and further up to denote good defensive play. 49ers top right, exactly where you want to be over the course of this whole season. Dallas, also a good team, above average both offensively and defensively, but they're firmly a tier 2 team. If we're going to add more recency into this, why don't we go weeks 8 to 18? This is ever since Christian McCaffrey entered the 49ers starting lineup as a full-time player. Obviously transformed the 49ers team. 49ers over that stretch are in a tier of their own. This also includes the 49ers wildcard game, not yet the Cowboys game. 49ers way up here, tier 1. Chiefs are the only tier 2 team. And then Dallas is on the verge of tier 2, but they're tier 3. So anyway you cut this, the 49ers have been a little bit better than the Dallas Cowboys this season. But I think that the spread on this game is still not going to be very big because both of these teams are two-way teams. You saw Dallas's profile. There's not a weakness across the board for Dallas. There are just weaker strengths. Everything is a strength, though, for the Dallas Cowboys, and they're going to be facing a 49ers team that can say the same about itself. So everybody welcome in. I see that we already have well over 1,000, so maybe it's time to put this up on the screen. 49ers, Cowboys, NFL, Nirvana. It really is. This is what I wrote a couple years ago. This is the longest piece I've ever written for The Athletic. Center stage, reliving the revolutionary 49ers-Cowboys rivalry of the 1990s. If you want to check this out, go ahead and click on this link that I am now putting into the chat section. It will be in the description soon. I'm putting this in there right now. There you go. Check it out. I'm going to go through this matchup position by position, but first I would like to set the table by talking about the history of 49ers Cowboys. That's Deion Sanders, who was on both sides of this rivalry, staring down Jerry Rice, 49ers legend, Cowboys and 49ers legend on the other side, Deion Sanders. That's an iconic shot, and it was an iconic rivalry, and I didn't mean to put Charvarius Ward versus CeeDee Lamb, although that is this game's version of that matchup. I guess inverted, though, because Charvarius Ward is the 49ers cornerback. I want to put right here, 49ers Cowboys history is iconic, and this next chapter might be too. This is indeed NFL Nirvana. Pat Summerall back in 1994, or 1995, technically. It was January 1995, said this right here. It's going to be at the bottom of your screen. This was the intro. Dallas and San Francisco have been on a collision course ever since the season began. The NFL's two juggernauts, head and shoulders above everyone else in the league. In 2 weeks, the Super Bowl will be played. After that, the Pro Bowl. Today, we'll play both. January 15th, 1995. So the anniversary was yesterday. 49ers Cowboys at Candlestick Park. It was the most star-studded game in NFL history. 21 Pro Bowlers, 19 All Pros, 10 future Hall of Famers on Candlestick Park's muddy field that afternoon. You had the NFL's all-time leading receiver, Jerry Rice, and the eventual all-time leading rusher, Emmitt Smith, playing in that game. The winner was going to win the Super Bowl, and I see a parallel potentially here. I think the winner of this game is going to win the NFC. I think that these are the two best teams in the NFC, the 49ers and the Cowboys. Let's put that picture back up there. All due respect to the Philadelphia Eagles, they haven't been playing as well as the 49ers or now the Cowboys. I wasn't sure about the Cowboys because they finished the regular season a little bit shaky, but the way they showed up today against Dallas makes me think they're firing on all cylinders. Their defense is second to only San Francisco's, and Dak Prescott is a force to be reckoned with, especially with CeeDee Lamb on his team, Dalton Schultz. Obviously Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott. They have a lot of weapons. We can go all through that list, but so do the San Francisco 49ers. I really think that the NFC title is going to be played this Sunday. Now, that is injury permitting, right? Somebody could win and also suffer a devastating injury, and all of a sudden the balance of power tips back to Philadelphia. But we should mention that the NFC East, they deserve a shout out. My friend Jason, who likes the New York Giants, texted me this, and it is true. 3 of the final 4 remaining teams in the NFC are from the NFC East, which not that long ago was known as the NFC least. And by not that long ago, I mean last season. Last season, the Dallas Cowboys ran through the NFC East, had the number 1 DVOA in football, showed up to their home stadium against the 49ers in the wild card round. They were a 3 seed and the 49ers were the 6 seed. And the 49ers really worked the Cowboys. The game probably shouldn't have been as close as it was. Probably the only reason it was close is because Jimmy Garoppolo tore his shoulder up in the game, suffered that second injury. So, anyways, then Dallas had a lot of breaks there at the end. They almost came all the way back, remember? And Dak Prescott ran out the clock with one of the worst clock management situations I'd ever seen, especially in the playoff game there toward the end. But, this game last season was a prelude to what we have this season. The 49ers have gotten a lot better. Dallas has gotten better. And I think that now it really is lining up as something that can be a preview of who's going to win the actual NFC. Dallas back on track after a slightly shaky finish to the regular season. All right, so check that out. That's center stage, 49ers Cowboys, reliving an epic rivalry of the 1990s. I could talk about the 90s forever and still not get to the most famous 49ers Cowboys moment. That obviously was Dwight Clark making the catch in January of 1982. And Dallas has had their moments as well. Dallas's moments, those came also in 1992 and 1993. I mean, you go back to here. I know there was probably Cowboys fans watching, so we can make some Cowboys fans happy. There's Charles Haley, who's played on both sides of this rivalry, sacking Steve Young. This is the January 1994 NFC title game, end of that 1993 season. And then here's Emmitt Smith, year before, January 1993, celebrating at Candlestick Park after Dallas beat the 49ers in the NFC title game. So the Cowboys in those 2 seasons avenged the January 1982 game, which featured the most famous play in NFL history with Dwight Clark catching the pass and from Joe Montana, and then the 49ers obviously holding off the Cowboys over the final minute. You've got the "How about them Cowboys" speech from Jimmy Johnson. We'll play that. Jerry Jones. Watching Jerry Jones walk out of the shot always cracks me up because you know that was a breakup waiting to happen, Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson. But then the 49ers turned it around. Deion Sanders, Michael Irvin. It's one of the most famous pass breakups and one of the most controversial plays of all time because Michael Irvin thought it was pass interference. Deion Sanders just thought it was good physical coverage. This led to the 49ers win in that January 1995 NFC Championship game. Another thing that helped was the defection of Ken Norton Jr., son of the legendary boxer, who came from the Cowboys to the 49ers, toughened up the 49ers. And then Steve Young finished off Dallas. And there's obviously still the epic camera shot of Steve Young running around Candlestick Park, celebrating football in hand, running over the cameraman, the mountaintop, Mount Everest, climbing Everest, staking a flag up at the top of Everest. Steve Young has talked about that. That was beating the Cowboys and then winning the Super Bowl. But the Super Bowl was 49ers Dallas. And hey, the NFC Championship, it might just be 49ers Cowboys this year. Battle of the NFL's top two defenses. All right, so let's go through this matchup. Let's it starts at 3:30 on Sunday, and we could talk about Dak Prescott, who was excellent today, but Dak has had an uneven season. And I look at some of Prescott's play this year, and it's been uncharacteristic. Today he was good. Nobody will deny that Dak Prescott showed up in Tampa Bay today and delivered for the Cowboys. But take a look at this right here. This is the Dak Prescott interception rate by season. So he came into the league in 16, under 1%, 2.7% in 2017. And then he was just consistently really solid. I mean, you want to be around here, 1.5%, 1.8, 1.8%, 1.7%. All of a sudden, 15 picks this year, 3.8% during the regular season. Prescott, as a result, ranked number 16 at 6.1 adjusted net yards per attempt. So Prescott was a mediocre quarterback efficiency-wise this year, really up until this game, because he was throwing way too many interceptions. Well, here's a key. If Prescott continues what he did in the regular season, the 49ers lead the NFL with 20 interceptions. So that's a big matchup in this game. Can Dak Prescott continue to play clean football like he did against Tampa Bay? Or is he going to throw more picks to a 49ers defense that specializes in picking off the ball? I think that might be the difference in this football game. Now, Dallas obviously will try to control game flow with their two-headed running back setup, Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. Pollard picked to the Pro Bowl over Christian McCaffrey, so you can be sure that Christian McCaffrey is going to be extra motivated in this game. George Kittle's been talking about how pissed off Christian McCaffrey has been over that and the all-pro snub, and he says that he stays pissed off so that way he can keep on destroying opposition. And last week, Christian McCaffrey ran for 7.9 yards per carry against the Seattle Seahawks. We look at the Dallas DVOA profile. They're a decent run defense. Number 5 at the top of this, better than decent. I was about to say they're a decent run offense, number 10, but the run defense is very good. So the 49ers will be challenged. McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, Deebo Samuel, obviously whoever gets carries. This is definitely going to be a marquee matchup in that regard. But the 49ers must take care. And, the flip side of that is the 49ers are the number 1 run defense in football. Struggled a bit, right, against the Seattle Seahawks, then figured it out. Then they got ahead, which was nice, gave them a cushion. But the 49ers are going to have to make sure they continue to have it figured out against Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. They also face a 1,300-yard receiver. CeeDee Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys has had a fantastic season. Charvarius Ward is coming off an off game against DK Metcalf. But Kyle Shanahan said exactly what I did about Charvarius Ward today. He said, yeah, you face a good receiver, he's going to deliver some big plays. You just have to minimize them. And there really was only one big play for Seattle against Charvarius Ward last week from DK Metcalf, and that was the 50-yard touchdown. That's the one that it's important that the 49ers avoid. So Charvarius has bounced back this year really nicely from his 2 bad games of the season, or from his 1 bad game previously that he had a chance to bounce back from. That was against Kansas City. Ward was really good against the Rams the following week. Well, now we fast forward to off outing against the Seattle Seahawks. But Charvarius Ward, who was good against DK Metcalf, shut him down in week 15. Now is going to have a marquee opportunity against CeeDee Lamb. And we'll see how the 49ers and D'Amico Ryan scheme it up, how often they're going to have Ward trailing CeeDee Lamb, how much the 49ers are going to trust Deommodore Lenoir, who's coming off his best game of the season. Tell you what, with the Cowboys coming to town, it's a good thing that Deommodore Lenoir has built up some confidence, as he did with a really good performance against the Seahawks and when he ran that route for Tyler Lockett and that interception last week. But the 49ers need to pay attention to Dallas's second leading receiver, and that's the tight end Dalton Schultz. Dallas runs a lot of play action, and Schultz was open in the seam today. That was the first touchdown for the Cowboys. Dalton Schultz is a good player. Teammates with Christian McCaffrey at Stanford, as I just said a few minutes ago. and a player that the 49ers have to look out for. 49ers are number 1 defense DVOA overall, but they rank number 13 in pass defense DVOA against tight ends. So, a lot of the play action concepts, eyes stuck in the backfield. We saw Darren Waller of the Raiders do well against the 49ers. That kind of stuff has flummoxed the 49ers defense a little bit. And Dalton Schultz is capable of delivering in that tight end role in a way that, can really strain the 49ers defense if they're not on their P's and Q's in this game. So how are they going to scheme against him? Well, I think it's got to be multiple, right? I think that you're going to have to use different safeties against him occasionally, but some bracket coverage. I think that if the Cowboys are really trying to hit the seams, make sure that you have a couple defenders in position, kind of like the Seahawks use their inside linebackers to take away the 49ers crossing routes this last week. At some point, you're going to have to trust Charvarius Ward, a big money cornerback, to neutralize the big money receiver in CeeDee Lamb, right? And I know CeeDee Lamb's not a big money receiver yet, but he's a first-round pick, and he's on his way to being just that. 49ers have their own big money guy in the future on the other side, and that's Brandon Ayuk, who's been playing excellent football for them. But if Charvarius Ward can neutralize CeeDee Lamb on his own or with limited help, that's when the 49ers can really start dedicating extra help to some of those seam routes, to some of the play action concepts that Dalton Schultz has been killing teams with. And I think it is really important that you don't over dedicate resources to the Cowboys' top receiver. Also important that you don't over dedicate resources to their running game, because then they're going to have all kinds of room to throw downfield. Today, Tampa Bay was just schooled in all regards. 49ers obviously would like to pressure Dak Prescott. They did last year. The secret weapon here for the 49ers might be Charles Omenihu. Omenihu owned Tyron Smith, Dallas's tackle, last year, one of the strongest players in the NFL, Tyron Smith. Omenihu beat him with power moves, had a sack and a half against Dallas. Bosa, obviously, in that game. I think Bosa suffered a concussion in that game, so he left a little bit early. So the 49ers had to strain through to beat the Cowboys. But Omenihu stepped the hell up in that game. Sack and a half, and I believe 6 pressures on only like 22 or 23 pass rushing snaps were absolutely huge for the 49ers. Well, you look at the matchup between these two offensive lines. The Dallas Cowboys are the number 11 pass blocking O-line in football. This is by pass blocking efficiency on Pro Football Focus, and the 49ers are number 3. That's a big deal. The fact the 49ers have had such a good offensive line pass blocking this year, the best of the Shanahan era. I'm going to put that up on the screen here in a little bit, but that's huge because the 49ers on the other side of the ball are going to have to neutralize Micah Parsons, who seemed to be all over the field against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers today. He's one of the best pass rushers in football. Obviously not saying he's better than Nick Bosa, but he's still going to be a problem that the 49ers need to take care of against, he's going to be working against either Trent Williams or Mike McGlinchey coming off the edge, and the 49ers are going to have to do the best job possible to make sure that Brock Purdy has some time to try to pick apart this Dallas secondary with a big stable of weapons. All right. I am going to show you a couple things here. This is going to be fun. We got center stage 49ers Cowboys, obviously. Put this up on the screen here while I shuffle through another article that I need to find for you. We're going to talk the current 49ers against the Cowboys. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about the offensive lines and the advantage I think the 49ers have in this football game up front. All right, so here we go. Here is Exhibit 1. I was talking about him a little bit earlier. That's Charles Omenihu. He had the game-changing sack against the Seattle Seahawks, and that was his biggest career game, 2 sacks. Previously, he had a sack and a half in his biggest career game. His coming out performance against the Dallas Cowboys last year. Omenihu, I think, is an X factor because of his previous success against Dallas. He worked Tyron Smith last year. We know that Nick Bosa is a phenomenal player, but we also know that Seattle dedicated a ton of resources to blocking Nick Bosa. So the 49ers realize that they need a bookending edge rusher. They need a Robin to Nick Bosa's Batman. And who better than Charles Omenihu in this game? If the 49ers can pressure Dak Prescott, as I think has been possible this year, it's not the Great Wall of Dallas offensive line anymore. That offensive line has regressed over the past few seasons. You pressure Dak Prescott, you get to the fact that he's been the number 16 QB this year in efficiency because he's thrown so many interceptions. You have to get Dak Prescott back into turnover mode. The 49ers lead the league in interceptions. They lead the league in turnover differential. Both of these things can help them win this football game. All right, so I put Charles Omenihu there. Now we're going to go back to my page here on The Athletic, and we're going to go to today's article. 3 under-the-radar reasons the 49ers are better situated now than they were last year for a Super Bowl run. Let me cut up a chart for you and put that on the screen. It's going to take me just a second, but this is going to deal with the offensive lines in this game. Cowboys number 11, 49ers number 3. And, you know, Mike, if Mike is watching, can you let me know what the spread on this game is? I'm sure the line is out at this point. I'm guessing 49ers by 4, maybe 49ers by 3, maybe 49ers by 4.5 if Vegas isn't sure. But here, I want to show you the reason why I think the line is going to favor the 49ers ultimately. I think that obviously you have a more inexperienced quarterback for the 49ers. You have comparable defenses with the 49ers being a little bit better than the Cowboys. You got weapons on both sides, maybe a few more for San Francisco. But the one, real true difference in this game is offensive line play, specifically in pass protection. And this is something that I think most 49ers fans or people who followed the 49ers at the start of this season did not expect. The 49ers are the number 3 pass blocking efficiency team in football. Blue is good, red is bad. You go through the seasons under Kyle Shanahan, and the 49ers have more red than blue. They were struggling in pass protection, especially when they went to the Super Bowl in 2020. Remember how much of a disaster that was. Finally, the 49ers, thanks to a player that is one of the greatest offensive linemen in the history of the NFL, started surging. They acquired him in 2020, but it took a little bit for this offensive line to hit because they had to revamp the whole thing. But thanks in large part to this guy right here, the San Francisco 49ers have become the number 3 offensive line in football, trailing only Tampa Bay, who we saw today, and the Philadelphia Eagles, who might await the winner of 49ers Cowboys the week after that. By the way, did I finish up my thought on the NFC East? I've been jumping around from thought to thought. We'll go back to that offensive line graphic in a second. The NFC East has 3 of the 4 remaining teams. I don't think I finished up my thought. 3 of the 4 remaining NFC playoff teams are from the division that people thought was terrible last year. Yeah, I normally am pretty good at circling back, and I guess I circled back to my thought again here, but this time it took me a few minutes to do it. But you have the New York Giants, beat the Minnesota Vikings yesterday. You have the Philadelphia Eagles, number 1 seed in the NFC. You have the Dallas Cowboys. So it's 3 NFC East teams and 1 NFC West team left in the NFC half of this tournament. So to me, that's interesting. And to me, the 49ers, to be able to get it done, they're going to have to be relying on a former NFC East player at left tackle. That is Trent Williams, formerly of Washington. This is him laughing at some Cowboys fans trying to flip him off after the 49ers beat Dallas on the road last year. Anyway, let's go back to this. Look at this. Number 3, pass block efficiency. That's huge. And it's going to make neutralizing Micah Parsons a showdown. A really good offensive line for the 49ers, a really good pass rusher for the Dallas Cowboys and Micah Parsons. And obviously you have Nick Bosa and Omenihu working on the other side. Just the sheer scale of this matchup, the excellent players that we're all talking about on both sides, that it's going to make this the most watched non-Super Bowl game of the year. And that history is iconic. It really, really is. So many matchups I'm looking forward to this week, but I think that I just hit on most of them. Wow, 700 comments. I haven't looked at the comment section in a long time. Right now, I will take a peek. No guarantee that I'm going to wade into it, but I do need a drink of water. So let's see what you guys are all talking about. What time is the game on Sunday is a question. 3:30 Pacific. I'm guessing we have a national audience today. I'm guessing that this is not just Pacific time. I'm guessing this is America's team time, right? I'm guessing we have people from all over watching the show. So 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern. If you're out in Europe, well, mainland Europe, 3:30 plus 9. It's going to be a little bit past midnight when it starts. So I'm sure we got some crazy individuals out there who'll be watching the game. Can't help if you're in Asia. I don't know how to add up that time. A little bit too much of a time difference for me. It's on the other side of the international date line. Man, so if you guys have questions, please ask them. Put a couple question marks so I could see them. I'm guessing this is going to be too hard. There's just so many people on, and I love it. I love that so many people are on. Thank you for joining the show. If this is your first time in, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I talk a lot of 49ers, but I talk NFL wide stuff too. I try to put an analytical approach to stuff. So we look at things like pass block efficiency. We take a look at the Dallas DVOA profile to see how well the Cowboys have played this year, all blue. That's very rare. 49ers in the same boat. We take a look at team tiers. Every once in a while, we take a look at the tape. Looking at the tape is always fun. So, I just try to have an even keeled analytical approach. Appreciate everybody who showed up to this show, and we'll continue talking here for a while, maybe take some questions in a little bit. By the way, I stumbled across this on Twitter. This is the 49ers alignment chart from their game against the Seattle Seahawks. So wherever a player lined up, it's a heat map. If you lined up there a lot, then it's going to turn into a more red color. But if you lined up anywhere once, it's going to be like a blue dot. So look at Christian McCaffrey, mainly in the backfield, but all across the entire formation. Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel is not McCaffrey's clearly dominant running back, right? That is his main position here. Samuel, there's nothing that's dominant. There's some stuff in the slot on both slots, and then there's an alignment in the backfield. I mean, Deebo Samuel is foot to the accelerator for the 49ers as far as the skill positions go. And Kyle Juszczyk across the formation too, even a one wide receiver alignment out here. So anyway, this is what the 49ers are operating with offensively. This team with Brock Purdy at quarterback, 6 starts, has averaged 34.8 points per game. In the game against Seattle, the 49ers had 3 receivers average over 20 yards per completion, and a 4th receiver average 18.5 yards per completion. Purdy's job has not been hard for the 49ers. Let's make that clear. He's doing his job well, but especially recently, there's been so much space to work with, and the offensive line has been so good for the 49ers. You saw it against Seattle. Guys were open by yards. It wasn't just feet, it wasn't just a tight window. Guys were open by yards far downfield, and Purdy was whipping the ball through there with ease. The 49ers are absolutely loaded on the offensive side of the football. And because of that, I think that, this matchup against the Cowboys' number 2 defense is going to be one of the most fascinating matchup of the year for me, because I look at the 49ers, and with Purdy, they just completely skunked the Buccaneers, right? That was one of those games where everybody was like, oh, Tampa Bay's got a decent defense. Let's see how Brock Purdy does against them. It was 35-7. We saw Tampa Bay today against Dallas's offense. Didn't look, any better than that. Tampa Bay is a top 10 defense. Dallas is a top 2 defense, and the 49ers are a top 1 defense. This is going to be a legitimate test for a 49ers offense that's so cutting edge. It feels like you're at the Pro Bowl when you're walking through their locker room. The room that they are working with is immense. The offensive line that Brock Purdy is playing behind is playing its best football. The 49ers are healthy, and that's the next big challenge for the Cowboys I'm going to talk about, because it's a huge advantage for the 49ers. But, this locked and loaded 49ers team against this Dallas team that just put up that performance against Tampa Bay, it's going to be must-watch TV in the NFC. Now, here, let me put in a new text title here. The 49ers, huge advantage. Now, the fact that Dallas won this game handily helps the Cowboys in this regard, but the 49ers' huge advantage is they played on Saturday. That means they have over a week until Sunday's game at 3:30 Pacific time, whereas Dallas just played a Monday night game. So Dallas is going to fly tonight from Tampa Bay to back home to Texas. And then they're going to turn around after the practice week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm guessing they'll fly Friday unless they want to fly Saturday. But I would think for body recovery, they're going to try to fly Friday to the Bay Area. So the Cowboys have 2 flights in front of them. Probably going to be boarding here in an hour or so in Tampa Bay. 2 flights in front of them, big time zone switches in front of them, and less rest than the 49ers. This is the 49ers' big advantage this week. They didn't quite get the number 1 seed, so they didn't quite have the luxury of a bye, but it's might be the second best thing, right? Maybe even better, because sometimes a team with a bye comes out rusty. Look at the Green Bay Packers last year against the 49ers in the divisional playoffs. So the 49ers came out healthy. Juwan Jennings and Samson Ebukam both have minor ankle injuries coming out of the Seahawks game, but otherwise the 49ers are healthy. They have a lot of rest. They're going to have that full week plus a day, while Dallas is going to be playing on a short week, and I think that's a huge deal. Mike sent me the odds to this game, so why don't I put them up? Oh, it's good stuff. Here, let's type this out. 49ers. I'm not going to ruin it until it's up there. What do you guys think the odds are? I'm sure you guys have already looked them up. 49ers have opened up as 3.5 point favorites against the Cowboys. The over-under is 46. So let's do some math. Expected score, if the 49ers are 3.5 point favorites over the Cowboys at 46 total. So that's 26. No, it's going to be like 24, 21 would be 45. So 25 to 22 would be 47. So somewhere around there. I think in general, the expected score with this spread is 24 to 21 because you don't see 25-22 very often. So we'll say 25-21. That is a total. Well, 25-21 would do it, right? Yeah, 25-21. We'll say that. 25-21 is 46 points. That would be the expected score. That's not terrible on the fly math for me. Normally, I'm worse at that kind of stuff. So 25-21, 49ers or the Cowboys would be the expected score. We'll see if the line shifts over the course of the week. But 3.5 point favorites, I guessed 4.5. But 3.5 is very close to that, obviously. And it indicates that the 49ers are viewed as the better team than the Cowboys, but it also shows that the Cowboys are a serious threat to the 49ers on Sunday for a chance to advance to the NFC Championship game. All right, now maybe I wade in and take a look at some questions. Been going for 37 minutes. Let's keep on going. It's a big show. Again, with so many of you on here, it would be awesome. I mean, if there is one article that you can read that's going to prepare you for 49ers Cowboys, it's this. I worked so hard on this. It's over 6,000 words. It is the ultimate recap of the rivalry that changed the NFL. The Cowboys and the 49ers in the 1990s. We'll never see this again. So many of you grew up on this rivalry. I'm absolutely sure of it. So go ahead and check it out. Click on that. I think it's $1 a month right now. And you could subscribe to The Athletic through this piece. I mean, how could you not want to check out a piece about, I mean, it includes Jerry Rice. It includes Steve Young, Troy Aikman, Jimmy Johnson. All those guys talked to me for this piece. And it is a behind the scenes look at epic NFL memories. Also, while you're here, go ahead and follow me on Twitter. I'm at Lombardi himself. I'll be sharing a lot of that content there. And I promise a lot of behind-the-scenes looks at 49ers Cowboys from Levi Stadium this week. That's what I try to deliver, is just the behind-the-scenes content that you can't find anywhere else. So we'll do a stadium tour. We'll do a lot of locker room content. We'll do a lot of field content. It is going to be electric at Levi Stadium on Sunday afternoon. And, the preview material ahead of this game, that's going to be fun to tackle as well. All right, time to answer some questions. How is everyone doing? Let us see. Brian wants a video of 49ers and Cowboys DVOA stats next to each other, comparing them. Sure, I can do that. I'm not going to do it right now because I would have to make the graphic. But what I can do right now is I could put the Cowboys stats up there. So we're talking DVOA, right? Put the Cowboys stats up there, and you could see that Dallas is good across the board. And I could tell you where the 49ers are in relation. Overall, number 6 for Dallas, 49ers are number 1. Cowboys offense, number 15. 49ers offense, since picking up McCaffrey's number 1. Cowboys, even without the Cooper Rush era counted, are about number 15. 49ers defense, number 1. Dallas defense, number 2. 49ers special teams, number 7. Dallas, number 10. So the 49ers are a little bit better across the board, but Dallas is a formidable opponent for sure. All right. Please, questions, questions, questions. Why did the NFL have a Monday night wild card? Because the NFL likes to make money. It's not good for the Cowboys. I'm sure they're not happy about it, but it's a big example for the 49ers. A big advantage for the 49ers, not an example. All right, yeah, and here, I was talking about the 49ers Cowboys rivalry, the 80s and the 90s, epic stuff. The rivalry went into 2021, actually technically 2022 when Trent Williams did this after the 49ers won. But this comment from Gopher Broke below does illustrate another component of this rivalry. It predates the catch from Dwight Clark. The 1970s, the NFC Championship game in 1971 was played at Kezar. I will pay a visit to Kezar Stadium this week. I'm going to do a show from Kezar. And the 1972 NFC Championship game was played at Candlestick. And one of those two games was an NFC divisional round game. I don't think both of those were NFC title games. Either way, the Cowboys won both of them. They came from behind in the one at Candlestick, and they played, I think that was on AstroTurf at Candlestick, and they delivered two gut punches to the 49ers in those seasons. I'm also going to go to the Candlestick site. That has to be done this week. So I'm going to go to Kezar. I'm going to go to Candlestick. We're going to do shows from both. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that alarm button so you know whenever I'm coming live from some of these iconic locations in San Francisco. Now Levi's Stadium is going to get its turn for 49ers Cowboys. It is going to be epic, and thank you for bringing that up. Okay. I'm looking for some questions here. What was my favorite 49ers Cowboys rivalry moment? Well, I grew up as a kid of the 90s, but, I was born in 1988. So I remember 49ers Packers more than 49ers Cowboys. 49ers Packers was the back half of the 90s. 49ers Cowboys was the front half of the 90s. I do remember my dad yelling at the TV when Alvin Harper was running away with no, it wasn't a touchdown, it was a massive gain to put away the January 1993 NFC Championship at Candlestick Park. I don't firmly remember the 49ers beating the Cowboys in January 1995. My first real football memory of me watching the game with some intensity. By the way, that Alvin Harper game right here, that's Emmitt Smith celebrating after at a very wet Candlestick Park. Alvin Harper, this is the graph about Alvin Harper catching the slant and streaking 70 yards. The Cowboys in that game knew exactly where the footing would be good and where the footing would be bad. Jimmy Johnson did a great job of pre-scouting the field at Candlestick Park because there had been so much rain and, in winter conditions, it was really soggy there. And they caught the 49ers on some bad footing. It's just some crazy stories from that game. So be sure to check out this article, check out the Center Stage article. But anyway, I have to say that my favorite 49ers Cowboys rivalry moment is Terrell Owens on the Star in 2001 at Texas Stadium. And George Teague leveled him. And Emmitt Smith, speaking of Emmitt Smith, he went pounded the football down on the Star after Owens did it the first time. And then Owens did it again, and George Teague leveled him. Because at that point, I'm 13 years old, right? At that point, I can remember this stuff a little bit better than when I was 7 or 6 or however old I was in the mid-1990s. So I remember the 49ers-Packers rivalry a lot growing up in the back half of the 90s. But then, the 49ers-Packers rivalry died. The 49ers rebuilt very quickly in 01. And no, it was actually 2000. The 49ers made the playoffs in 01, played the Packers again. But 2000 is when they went to Dallas, and Terrell Owens went to the Star, right, and looked up through the roof because the roof has a hole in it in Dallas. So I believe so God can watch the games, right? So I remember that. And then the 49ers and the Cowboys went dark for a long time because the 49ers weren't any good for a long time. And then the Cowboys weren't good. They weren't a playoff team when the 49ers were good under Jim Harbaugh. And finally, in 2022, January 2022, we got this. We got the Trent Williams moment in Dallas. So to answer your question, I hope that does answer your question. It's a complicated answer, but that's it. Okay. '49ers should paint a star on the game just for this, for on the field just for this game. Why would they do that? How is this 49ers defense versus tight ends this season? Number 13 DVOA against tight ends. The 49ers have been okay, not great. Dallas against the run's been good. Number 5 DVOA. They can play the run. But just because you can play the run doesn't mean you can play the 49ers run game. 49ers run game is insane. They're number 3 now ever since picking up McCaffrey. They can hand off to Debo. Debo led them in receiving last week, but he also took the first handoff of the game for 22 yards. That just illustrates how versatile, multiple, and dangerous the 49ers are. So I think the 49ers will be able to run against the Cowboys. They were able to a little bit last season, but the 49ers against tight ends, that could be an issue on the other side because the 49ers are number 13 against tight ends. They've had some play action issues, right? When their eyes get stuck in the backfield. Darren Waller from the Raiders sprung out for some big plays. So the 49ers are definitely going to have to be on top of everything in that regard. Still have the 94 game, the NFC title game on VHS. Keep that. That is a relic. That is awesome. Yes, this 49ers team is a lot better than last year's version. They are way better up front. Their quarterback is actually healthy. It's a different QB. But the main thing is, you know what's a crazy stat? Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy both finished this season at exactly 7.6 adjusted net yards per attempt. Garoppolo 7.6, Brock Purdy 7.6. You couldn't ask for any crazier symmetry. And by the way, adjusted net yards per attempt is going to be an efficiency stat that also factors in interceptions, sack yardage, and touchdown passes. It is the most correlated stat to the NFL MVP award that there is. So it's an important stat. And Purdy is at 7.6, Garoppolo is at 7.6. Both of those numbers rank number 3. It's a tie for number 3 in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes is like 7.9, right? So Patrick Mahomes is, he's always your adjusted net yards per attempt king out of the guys that played the full season. Tua, I think, was at 8.1, but Tua didn't play the full season, and he was tanking there toward the end. I think if he would have played a little bit more, if we had seen a little bit more from Tua, I don't think he finishes ahead of Mahomes. But anyway, 7.6 for both Purdy and Garoppolo. And the key is the 49ers are going to have a 7.6 guy in Purdy starting this game because last year they didn't have that in Garoppolo. He was hurt, especially against Dallas early on, first half. Randy Gregory, who's now with Denver, Randy Gregory injured Garoppolo's shoulder, and he had already injured his thumb. So the 49ers had a very compromised QB playing in that football game against the Cowboys. And as a result, a compromised offense. This season, they're healthy at QB. They have more weapons offensively, obviously starting with Christian McCaffrey to complement Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle. And they're better up front. On top of that, the 49ers have a better top cornerback than last year. And that's going to be one of my favorite matchups of this game. Charvarius Ward is his name, and he's going to be faced off against CeeDee Lamb. I think there's going to be some trailing going on in this game. And Ward has really impressed me. Diamond Lenore impressed me last week. Ward gave up the one big pass to DK Metcalf, but that's not the story. The story is that Ward's been a plus corner all year long, and that CeeDee Lamb has been a star wideout all year long. 1,300 plus yards for CeeDee Lamb. This is going to be a fight. I mean, and this might determine how the dominoes shakes out. All the dominoes shake out for the entire matchup of the 49ers defense against the Cowboys offense. Because if the 49ers, Charvarius Ward has decent success against CeeDee Lamb in single coverage, then the 49ers can start focusing on Dalton Schultz, who I think they're going to be vulnerable against in the play action. The 49ers have to stop the run. They have to stop Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. That's going to be another Titanic matchup that I'm not sure about because Seattle was able to run with some patience with Kenneth Walker last week against the 49ers' number 1 run defense. But if you stop that run game or at least slow it down, then you're going to have some numbers against the pass game. But you lose those numbers really quick if Ward can't handle CeeDee Lamb one-on-one. If it's going to take 2 against CeeDee Lamb, Dallas has weapons too. Maybe not as many as the 49ers, but Dallas has weapons too. The only way that I see this game playing out is that both teams are going to score some points. I think Dallas is going to get to 20. I think that the spread and the over-under, by the way, the spread, 3.5 over-under 46, 25-21 49ers, that checks out to me. I think that even a great 49ers defense holding Dallas to 21 would be the type of performance you would expect. You don't expect any lower than that. And Dallas is the number 2 defense, holding the 49ers to the mid 20s. You'd also expect that. So the implied score through the spread and the over under is 25-21. And I really wouldn't be shocked if that's how it ended up. All right, back to some more questions here. Yeah, CD Lamb did not do a lot in last year's game, and the 49ers are better at cornerback this year. 49ers had a great pass rush last year. Again, Charles Omenihu was the X factor in last year's game. This is a flat out no. Does Leighton Vander Esch have any chance of covering George Kittle? No. That would be a big mismatch in the 49ers' favor. What's wrong with Kinlaw? There's nothing wrong with Kinlaw. Kinlaw's playing some good football. Had a good run stop early in the game, second down against Seattle. He's a rotational guy who the 49ers are using to plug the hole against the run up in the middle. So I think Kinlaw's playing some good ball. Shanahan actually shared today that he didn't expect Kinlaw to come back this season with the knee issue, and he did. He proved him wrong. So I think the arrow is pointing up on Javon Kinlaw. 49ers going to need him against Dallas. Dallas does like to pound that run game a little bit, so the 49ers going to need as much D-tackle help as possible. You know, just in general, I talked about this a little bit earlier to open the show, but this is going to be the most watched non-Super Bowl game of the year, I think. And this is just such a glamour rivalry. This is the most glamorous rivalry that there is in football. 49ers, Cowboys. You can't script it up any better than this. I mean, the uniform combinations, that's not a Cowboys jersey, it's an Andrew Luck jersey. Shout out to my Stanford days, but you're going to have not the 94 jerseys, but you're going to have the 49ers red, Cowboys white, silver against gold, right? I mean, this is just an NFL fan's dream. And it was in the 70s when these two teams played some epic games, went into overdrive in the 1980s with Joe Montana and the catch from Dwight Clark. And the 1990s, well, it was the Super Bowl for 3 straight years in the 1990s. All due respect to the Buffalo Bills and the San Diego Chargers, but the 49ers Cowboys was the world championship that year. Ken points out that gold is more valuable than silver. Yeah, everybody just stop what you're doing right now and do what Mike says. Smash the like button. Smash it. Just bang, bang, bang. Smash that like button. Help out the show. Would be very much appreciated. Again, if you're new here, we try to be really analytical and we're going to go really in depth more than anywhere else. So hit that like button, hit the subscribe button as we surge forward with this week. This is the matchup the NFL wanted, Frank Saldivar says in all caps. Scott McKenzie asks, do you think the 49ers secondary will hold up well against Dallas? That's the big question. It's going to be a rushing coverage effort. 49ers have held up well this season, right? I mean, they've had their blips, but I think the 49ers are confident in their defense, but I also would not expect perfection. Dak Prescott was really good today. The question is, do they generate some takeaways? The 49ers lead the NFL in interceptions, and Dak Prescott's thrown 15 picks this year. How does that play out? I think that's the big question in this game. How good is the 49ers offensive line against Dallas's defensive line? Well, the 49ers O-line, I'm glad you asked, ranks number 3 in pass blocking efficiency. Dallas's defensive line has Micah Parsons. Dallas's defensive line is good enough to have the number 2 overall defense in the NFL by DVOA behind only the 49ers. That's one of the many, many marquee matchups of this game. When most teams have positive takeaways, they win. And the 49ers, especially when the 49ers have been positive or even in turnover differential this year, they are undefeated. I believe they are either 11 or 12-0 in those situations. So they were +2 the other week. They led the NFL in turnover differential. And the key is going to be to force Dallas into turnovers because Dallas has had some issues with those this season. Anthony Hernandez is getting aggressive. 45-3 49ers. I'm not so sure about that. No, I won't. That's a Super Bowl thing. To answer this question about the 17 right there. Is Tom Brady going to announce the game for Fox? Tom Brady's eliminated. He's under contract. I don't think that would make Greg Olson all too happy. Can the 49ers trade for Vita Vea? No, he's still under contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it's past the trade deadline, so I don't think that's going to work out for the 49ers to have big 345-pound Vita Vea on the inside. A lot of you predicting blowouts in this game. It's crazy. Not here. 31-24 49ers. Skip Bayless said that Pollard was better than McCaffrey. That's crazy. Let's read another Pat Summerall quote. Did he really say this? Pat Summerall once said, "It's deja vu all over again. San Francisco against Dallas, the established champion versus the young upstart, with a nod to the past and a look to the future." Sounds like something Pat Summerall would have said circa 1992. And then Dallas became the established champion. And then Pat Summerall said this. I just got to keep on opening this because this right here, this is the article. This is my biggest piece ever. 49ers Cowboys. In 2 weeks, the Super Bowl will be played. After that, the Pro Bowl. Today, we will play both. Boom. Pat Summerall, RIP. What an announcer. So good. The soundtrack, him and John Madden, the soundtrack of 49ers Cowboys of the 1990s. And, 94 moved to Fox, and that was huge for Fox to get going as a network broadcasting these football games. I'm sure Jerry Rice is going to be running routes during pregame warmups. That's going to be crazy. How's anybody going to stop McCaffrey and Debo? I think the only way you do it is overwhelm the 49ers up front, and their offensive line has held up to the task so far. Number 3, pass blocking efficiency. Maybe you slow them down, right? And if you slow them down, then it's on the 49ers defense to make sure they slow down Dallas's offense more. I'm sure Jerry Rice does hate the Cowboys, as people are saying in the chat. A lot of predictions on here right now. Everybody's going to prediction mode. Do I think that Purdy will handle the pressures by the Cowboys D-line? We've seen it. Every quarterback struggles with pressure, right? It's just a thing. You do better in a clean pocket than you do with pressure. We've seen Purdy beat pressure. Seen him beat some zero blitzes. We've seen him have some struggles. The 49ers have to protect him, and he's got to be on his P's and Q's, and he's got to get rid of the football in time. Brock Purdy's biggest weakness so far is that he spins out of the pocket to his offside. And his offside is to the left, and he's right-handed, so he's got to reset his base. He's got to flip his hips and throw. That takes some time, and often that doesn't put you into good position to convert and find some options downfield. It really hurt the 49ers offense in the first half against Seattle. Purdy, to eliminate his biggest weakness, has got to be better about stepping up in the pocket. So that's how he's going to deal with better pass rushers, is by stepping up, because he's so quick. Purdy's got a 1.55 10-yard split. That's a 100th of a second slower than Lamar Jackson's. He's not fast. He's quick, right? And if you can utilize that quickness to step up in the pocket or step to the right, that's where his most impressive throws have come, right? Running to the right. That is where he can beat some of these premier pass rushers. But it's a team effort. 49ers O-line and Brock Purdy have to meld together, and then the receivers have to be on the same page too. And so far they have been. Again, the 49ers are at 34.2 points per game over the 6 Brock Purdy starts this season. Red Eye thinks 27-17 49ers. Anybody think the Cowboys are going to win here? If you think the Cowboys are going to win, let me know. How do the 49ers contain Dalton Schultz? I talked about this a little bit earlier. You have to have smart eyes. First, you got to stop that run game, but you have to have smart eyes. Hufanga can't be biting all too much. Deshaun Gibson can't be biting all too much on play fakes. Those safeties have to be at home. They have to be in their zone, because the Cowboys love to run Schultz up the seam. The weather is going to be beautiful. Yes. Nobody thinks the Cowboys are going to win. I thought we'd had some Cowboys fans in here, but I guess not. How will the Dallas defense hold up against Brock Purdy's all-around passing? Nobody's been able to hold up against it because he does have so many targets around the field. I think Dallas is going to have to enter this game expecting to give up some points, but maybe they gamble to try to get a couple turnovers. So far, Purdy's protected the ball well. If Dallas can't stop Purdy at all, it's going to be a long day for them because I don't see Dallas being able to score 30-plus against the 49ers defense. But crazier things have happened. So there's a reason why the 49ers are favored in this game, and that's because the matchup that you illustrate right here does, in fact, project in their favor. I think the 49ers are going to go Drake Jackson active against the Cowboys. I think they're going to want as many edge rushers as possible in this game. Dallas, I mean, this is still more of a passing team than it is a running team, but I don't know. Well, we'll see how this week plays out. Massive advantage for the 49ers is a short week, and the Cowboys do have to travel to San Francisco. Dallas is not going to forfeit. I know you're joking. Aside from Diggs, who to look for in the Dallas secondary? All right, Trayvon Diggs. He's a boom or bust kind of player. He'll gamble on a lot of balls, try to get a lot of picks. But last year, Brandon Ayuk cooked Trayvon Diggs. He's their main man corner, right? And Brandon Ayuk was the 49ers' main man-beating corner. So I think that's a matchup that the 49ers will try to make a little bit of hay against. You try to utilize Trayvon Diggs' aggressiveness against him. Elsewhere in the Dallas secondary, the other side's Deron Bland, their other corner. Malik Hooker is the safety. You go up to the line. Parsons will occasionally drop back into coverage, not as much as he did last year. And they have Anthony Barr as their weak side linebacker, who's probably going to be doing some coverage of tight ends in this game. So remember Anthony Barr from Minnesota. So you kind of go through the Dallas secondary and guys who might see some coverage assignments. And I don't think you're overwhelmed if you're the 49ers. I think you say, hey, Trayvon Diggs is the best player back there, but he is a beatable player back there because he does gamble a lot. So take some of those gambles, make sure you pick your spots correctly if you're Brock Purdy, and go to party if you're the 49ers. Well, I don't think anybody likes a matchup against Micah Parsons, who could move around. He's going to work against the edges. I think he'll probably go against right tackle against McGlinchey. It's hard to say, hey, the 49ers are competent with Micah Parsons against Mike McGlinchey. McGlinchey's having a good year. He's an above-average pass blocker. But Parsons, again, probably second only to Bosa in pressure rate. He's having a fantastic year. He's a superstar. So the 49ers, I mean, that's something you got to scheme around. That's something that Brock Purdy has to keep his eyes out open for. Chip help, all that good stuff. Same thing that other teams do to Nick Bosa. Hazy days. David, the 49ers neutralized Bosa by using his speed against him. Have other teams tried the same tactic? But has Bosa learned to counter? Well, yeah, I mean, the Chiefs ran a lot of perimeter rushing. And the problem against the Chiefs is the 49ers weren't very deep at defensive tackle. So they were getting pushed back at the line of scrimmage. It was a really good Chiefs O-line. And then Bosa wasn't playing, on his toes. He was playing on his heels. He was also coming off an injury. That was all bad, right, against the Chiefs. 49ers went back to the drawing board as they said they would after that game. And they've been much more ready to stop the run, which gets Bosa in much better position to use his speed advantageously. So, I wouldn't worry about it. I think that Nick Bosa has learned how to counter, and it's by starting games playing downhill instead of uphill. Yeah, I think you can run right at Micah Parsons. They did last year. Very first touchdown, I remember, they ran at Micah Parsons last year. So, yeah, he's a little bit lighter. He's a great pass rusher, but I think that if you run at him and you neutralize him, because the 49ers have great spatial blockers, you can beat Micah Parsons. And the 49ers have already proven that last season. I made a video about this, so go ahead and check it out. I think DeMeco only has 2 head coaching interviews this week. I asked Kyle Shanahan about it. He's got one on Thursday evening and then one on Friday afternoon. And these are Zoom interviews. He's not traveling. And coaches have some free time regardless, even if they're game planning for the Cowboys on Thursday evening and Friday afternoon. So as long as DeMeco Ryans manages his time well, the 49ers will be fine in this regard. More sacks, 97 or 11. Bosa or Parsons. I think the guy with more sacks in this game is very likely to be on the winning team. Let's put it that way. The logical truth says without a kicker, the Cowboys are doomed. Well, we'll see if their kicker figures it out. I guess I haven't seen the reports yet. I've been live the whole time, but are they going to sign somebody else, or are they going to let Maher kick even though he has the yips? Join the like party, everybody. Hit the like. And everybody obviously subscribe to The Athletic. I've talked about it a few times. If there's a piece that you need to check out, it's this: reliving the revolutionary 49ers-Cowboys rivalry of the 1990s. But, another good one to see is right here. 3 under-the-radar reasons the 49ers are better situated for a Super Bowl run this year than they were last year. And I'm copying and pasting this link, and I'm also putting it into the chat section. A, they're better at corner this year, and that Charvarius Ward, CeeDee Lamb matchup is going to be huge. B, the 49ers offensive line, as I mentioned, number 3 in football. Look, that's a lot of blue. That's dark blue. O-line is really good, and it's better than Dallas's own line. And 3, the 49ers are much fresher than last year, and they're playing this game on extra rest while Dallas is playing on a short week. So this is, a lot of things working in the 49ers' favor, and I churned out that piece today, so make sure you do check it out. I think Shanahan against McCarthy is a big mismatch. It was last year when the 49ers, I don't think, weren't nearly as talented as they are this year. Good roster for the 49ers last year. Not a great roster. They were very injured. They were tired. And Shanahan schooled Mike McCarthy last year. So I think it is an advantage for the 49ers. McCarthy's a guy the 49ers have beaten a few times in the playoffs. Packers, and now with the Cowboys. Yeah, we'll see. Warner Greenlaw against Schultz is going to be a lot of fun. We'll see how often the safeties pick him up. I think you're going to have some safety help there on some of those seam routes. You don't want Dallas to make a living off of those. So it's going to be fascinating stuff to see how the 49ers play it. D'Amico's going to be busy with those interviews and the schematics. Oh, man. I'm getting tired, guys. Getting tired. Hit that like button. Keep me going here. Keep me going for at least a little bit longer. 49ers absolutely do need to pressure Dak Prescott. And again, they did last year, even though Bosa was concussed during that game. How can Dallas beat the 49ers? Well, Dallas can beat the 49ers by neutralizing the 49ers pass rush. And you do that by running the football. If Dallas has success running the ball with Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott, that's when you get the 49ers' eyes stuck in the backfield. That's when you can run play action. That's when you can do what the Raiders did. And the Cowboys have weapons that can do what the Raiders did. They have CeeDee Lamb and they have Dalton Schultz. And they have more weapons. I get it. But they have 2 decent backs. Good backs, I'll say. Pollard, Pro Bowler, even though I think McCaffrey should have been there above him. Raiders had Josh Jacobs, maybe the best back in football. That back gets the defense stuck with their eyes in the backfield. Then you can run play action. Then you can neutralize the 49ers pass rush. Then you can score points. Other side of the ball, you have to hope that Brock Purdy makes enough mistakes to neutralize what is going to be 49ers offensive production. There's no way the 49ers don't produce something offensively. Even against the number 2 defense, I'm not surprised if they do that because the 49ers have so many weapons. So the Cowboys upset the 49ers by exposing that weak link on defense, which is only exposable if you're able to run against the 49ers a little bit, which is easier said than done since the 49ers are the number 1 run defense, but it is possible. And then on the other side, by playing some good ball that, puts the 49ers in a compromised spot offensively. And that relies on forcing more turnovers than the 49ers have been prone to give up so far this year. Now, there's also another third equalizer, that's special teams, but I can't really talk about Dallas's path to beating the 49ers via special teams on the night that their kicker missed 4 extra points. I don't know if Dallas is going to make a kicker change. I haven't followed some of the reports because I've been sitting here doing this live instead. Somebody thinks that Kittle's going to eat. 49ers D-line is essential in helping their DBs. Yes, rush and coverage must work together. All right, cool. Everybody, thank you so much. Stay on though. Don't log off. I'm gonna go through a couple things here just to wrap up the show, and then we're going to call it a night. But anyway, those of you that have been living under a rock for the last hour, it's gonna be Cowboys at 49ers at 3:30 next Sunday. It's gonna be an awesome matchup. NFL Nirvana, because 49ers Cowboys has always been NFL since the 1970s. It's been NFL Nirvana. I think this is going to be the most watched non-Super Bowl game of the year, an iconic rivalry where the next chapter might be iconic too. The 49ers need to hope that Dak Prescott, the regular season version, shows up, because the playoff version, oh boy, the one we saw against Tampa Bay was pretty damn good for the Dallas Cowboys. Regular season version, beatable. And the 49ers actually lead the league in picks. Prescott has thrown 15 of them. End of the day, 49ers have a big advantage because they have extra rest, and they are 3.5-point favorites over Dallas. I'll have my prediction. I'll have a ton of other coverage over the course of this week. Everybody, thanks for joining. Let's buckle up. 49ers Cowboys is what you want as a football fan. It is going to be awesome. Everybody take care. Have a great Monday night.